So if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box, and I will be facilitating the questions for Kim. And Kim, we're going to go ahead and get started. So you're on. Welcome.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paula and Ellen. And good evening to everybody. And I'm excited to be here again. So for those of you who attended last time, you may hear some of the same information, which I never find to be a bad thing. And I may present, or I may be able to squeeze in some new things as well. We'll see. But for those of you who are, this is the first time you're attending this one, my name is Kim Wobick, and I'm talking to you from Chicago today. And we are talking about doing an advanced literature review. So not in the sense that it's more advanced, but just talking about different ways to dig a little bit deeper to find citations for your literature review. So we are not going to talk about a lot about the basics of searching or basics of putting together a search strategy. So if you have any questions about that, we can try to answer them now, but I also want to let you know that Jillian Lohndorf, another librarian here in the Chicago campus, has done several webinars with NCAID on the basics of using the library resources, and I really encourage you to go to NCAID's YouTube channel and look at those videos. Additionally, you could also, moving forward, use your library resources, and I'm not talking about the electronic ones, I'm talking about the librarians. So we are here for you in Chicago, in LA, and Washington, D.C. There are librarians at each campus that you could email, call, make an appointment with, also to get some in-depth research assistance for whatever project you may be working on. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dissertation. It could be a white paper, a thesis, or the paper that's due for your class at the end of the semester. So where we are right now, what we're looking at is the library's new website, which hopefully you are a little bit familiar with. It made its debut in August, and we've been using it successfully all semester. And really what it presents to you through different tabs is a more efficient way to get to many of the resources that the library subscribes to for you to use in your research. So what we're going to do now is go directly to find books, media, and articles, and we're going to talk about some of those database platforms that are key to your initial searching. And I want to run through a couple things I want to make sure you know. So when I go to find articles and journals, so you'll see here in the middle that we have a box dedicated to links to our big three, as we call them. EBSCO, which has the bulk of the research databases that the library subscribes to. ProQuest, which includes several databases across a few different disciplines actually, but the one key resource that we have in ProQuest that is probably most important, especially if you're starting on a major project, is the ProQuest Dissertations and Theses database. We could talk about that briefly too. And then finally we have SAGE. Now ProQuest and EBSCO bring together resources from a multitude of publishers, so it's not just one source that EBSCO is presenting to us. However, on the other side of that, there's SAGE, who, as we can see here, is the world's 5th largest journals publisher. So all of the journals in the SAGE Premier database are published by SAGE, are peer-reviewed, and are available to us in full text. So they're also multidisciplinary, but the key to keep in mind there is that they are all one publisher. And it's good to know because you might be looking for something from a particular journal, and if you go to SAGE and that journal is not published by SAGE, you might question why you can't find it. But while we are on this page, we're going to go to EBSCO first. But one of the things that you might be doing as part of an advanced citation search is looking for the full text of various citations. And I wanted to point out to everybody the journal's quick search box over here. Now this may be replaced in the future. We're switching tools in the new year, but if you're looking for a article in the psychiatric annals, say, and you just wanted to go directly to the journal, I entered the title of the journal in the quick search box here, and it's highlighted as a link in red here on our SFX page, which is our current tool that we use to connect all of our databases behind the scenes. So if a journal is in one resource but not another, this SFX resource will let you know that. So by clicking on the title, I'm being told here that the years of this journal, 2003 till 2010, are available in an EBSCO host database in full text, and then it takes you directly to the database, and then you can click through to the particular year and issue. Now I wanted to bring that up right away, partly because we were there, but partly because that happens a lot, that you're looking at an article that you have in hand, or you're reading a book chapter and you want to follow up on some of these references. So one of the quickest ways to do that and to get the full text is to come back to the library page and to see if we have it full text right away. But we'll talk about other ways to kind of hunt down those articles as well. But first, let's go to EBSCO. And I want to make sure, here we have the full list of all the databases that we have available for your research needs through EBSCO. So it really is just a platform for all of this information. The first thing I want to make sure everybody knows is that you should be creating an account in EBSCO. ProQuest and SAGE also do this as well. So you'd basically be creating your own account on top of the library subscription. So just to show you what that looks like in case you haven't done it yet, I'm going to log in on my account. And what you're able to do once you are logged in is save articles to the system, the EBSCO system, create folders. So if you're doing if you're working on a number of different projects, you can save articles and citations that you find here in the EBSCO databases to those folders in EBSCO. You can also share folders and resources with partners that you might have on a project or other colleagues. So if I do a quick search here, and I'm just going to type in keywords, very broad, and it gave us over 7,000 results because we have all of the databases chosen. So we're not even looking at just journal articles. As you can see here, there's a video. Here under source types, we're looking also at magazines, which might be Time, Newsweek, that kind of thing, general newspapers, books and book reviews. So you really want to remember, and I used my search terms first because usually the way I do it, I'd like to see the full scope of everything that's available. So I'll type in my search terms and then I'll do some limiting later. As you get a little bit farther into your searching, there's the limiter tools that you can use on the search, advanced search page, and we'll do that in a minute. But first I wanted to go to search history, and just as a quick overview. So if you need to go, you're happy with your search, you can see we've only done one search so far while we're sitting here, and here it is right here. So once you're signed in, you can create an alert. And so as you can see, EBSCO gives you a couple options. You want to either save the search or create an alert. By creating an alert, it gives you more choices. So what you're doing with this process is turning this resource into basically a research assistant for you. So once you set up all of the limits here, the frequency and how long you want this alert to be communicating with you, it will send links to your email, say once a week, with any new citations that match the subject or the keywords that you've typed in. So it's really useful for you to have that running for you in the background. So setting that up wherever you can, and Google Scholar also offers an alert service as well. Once you sign in, it's really great to have that pushed at you, and it helps you remember, where you were and what systems you did what searches in. So depending on how you're keeping track of that, the databases kind of have this built-in system to help you as well. So also in EBSCO, I want to keep in mind, you can already see that I have a number of tabs open for a number of different reasons. And this is really what your research ends up looking like, or what your workspace ends up looking like when you're doing research. There's a lot of back and forth involved, and that's kind of the scary part to people sometimes. So what I want to remind everybody of is that research, whatever type of research you're doing, really isn't a straight line. And it's difficult to just do it in a straight line because you are learning so much as you go along and read more articles and gather more references. So you might want to take a few steps back and read to a search as you learn about new terminology that is used to refer to a concept you're looking at, or you got information about a study, so you want to go back to one of the databases here to see if you can find it. So keep that in mind, that you're going to be doing a lot of circling, and that's a great thing because you're really kind of building that circle to be even larger the farther into your research you get. And think of that circle containing all of the research that you're doing. So you don't want it to overflow, so you're just expanding your knowledge by becoming the expert in the research, in the subject that you're looking at. So one of the ways to make sure that you are really kind of nailing down the terminology that is used in the literature is to use the thesaurus. So here under subjects, so as I mentioned before, we've got all the databases in the EBSCO chosen, and you don't even need to be signed in or create an account in EBSCO for this. But many of the databases, you notice not all, but many of them have their own subject lists, especially curated by people. Medline has medical subject headings, which are very, very specific and operate in a very specific way and can really help a researcher do some extremely focused searching. The one I wanted to take a quick look at right now was PsycInfo, since I'll be focusing on the psychology information. So their thesaurus, I find, is a good place to search just to kind of do a check on what you know. So we're going to stick with the seasonal affective disorder. I'm going to see if that's in here, and here we go. So I'm going to click on this, and this is telling me, this I always find the most interesting. Depending on what you're researching, the term may have been used for decades or maybe just a few years. So in our case here, seasonal affective disorder started to be used as an index term to be assigned to articles to make it easier to search for those in 1991. Tells you exactly what it means, and then it also tells you, gives you broader terms, related terms, and so if you think of seasonal affective disorder as SAD, which many of us do, and that's really how it's referred to in the trade literature, newspapers and such, well, that's not the case here. You might be able to find it as a keyword, but a more direct and focused search would be for you to use the term seasonal affective disorder. So I wanted to move on to some of the more advanced things, but I wanted to stop real quick and see if anybody had questions about any of that. It was kind of a quick overview.
Hi, Kim. Thank you. Yes, I'm being flooded with questions, as usual, when we have you on our webinars. Okay, let's see. First question from Jean. Good one. Is the library staffed during the break? So are you all available during the winter break?
The libraries will be closed, as will the campuses, from the December 24th through June, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, through January 3rd. Oh, I'm trying to get myself an extended vacation here. So we will not be staffed during that time, but I probably will be checking emails occasionally. So if you get super stuck, you can email my personal Chicago School email, which is kwobick@thechicagoschool.edu, because that pops up on my phone. So while I'm binge watching whatever show is being watched in my relative's house, I can help you out with your research.
Okay, great. I just put your email address in the chat box for everyone.
Great.
Thank you, Kim. Let's see. Let me share this string of communication I had with Richard. How do you suggest helping students understand the difference between a database, for example, ERIC Psych articles, versus a search engine, for example, EBSCO versus the combos, ProQuest? Now, I replied to Richard stating that all of those were databases, and his reply was, let's see, okay, thank you, though I certainly know some who argue vehemently about the distinction that, for instance, EBSCO does not control its own content, so to speak, but acts as a host of services as a search engine. So could you share a little clarity on that for us, please?
Oh, sure. Well, and you may remember, or you may recall, Richard, that I referred to EBSCO as a platform. So it's not so much as a search engine, because it's not necessarily crawling a certain community of literature to gather those articles. The publishers do supply that material, so it's very different from a search engine, as we know Google or Yahoo in that instance. So yes, EBSCO itself, what we're looking at right now, that's our search platform. The content and the databases, that's what these all are. So you're really correct in that instance. And the other big difference, I think, between a database research platform like EBSCO or ProQuest and, say, a true search engine, which is how I think of Google and Yahoo, are the fact that the library pays an annual cost or annual fee to the companies that gather, that work with the publishers to deliver these databases through EBSCO. I mean, we don't even get everything that EBSCO offers, so obviously we focus our content, our database content and subscriptions to the needs of the curriculum. So that's what you see here. But we could, EBSCO and ProQuest offer even more database content from various publishers. So I'm wondering if that explanation clears it up a little bit.
Thank you, Kim. A question here from Vivian. Can online students also schedule virtual meetings with librarians? Is there a specific point of contact?
Absolutely. And usually the online students reach out to the library here at the Chicago campus, but any of the librarians from any of the campuses, there's not a general email that all the libraries would see, so usually online students pick one of our physical campus libraries to connect with. So because we do have, here in Chicago, we have more staff than LA and DC, you are more than free to contact us, and we can see what we can do to help you.
Thank you, Kim.
Of course.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I passed this one up. Harvard Business Review, is that available to Chicago School students?
It used to be. I tell you what, here's a good, there has been a lot of contention with Harvard Business Review this year. So let's do a journals quick search. I know we used to have it. Oh, that's why. Harvard Business Review. I want to double check because it should be, yeah, it's available through EBSCO host Business Source Premier. So we see here it's available from 1922. I think this question comes up for us sometimes because we do subscribe to it. There it is. So we do have it all the way back. You may have articles from the Harvard Business Review that are required for your classes. So you may find or see citations for these on your e-reserves or in Canvas. But one of the new restrictions that HBR has put on making the content available is that we can't necessarily link you directly to the PDF. We can only link you to EBSCO, and then you can click into the PDF, if that makes any sense. It's not the, it's quite a workaround, and it's very annoying to everybody involved, but we do have the content you need from Harvard Business Review.
Thank you, Kim, very much. Let's see. Oh, I have to share one comment with you from Jean. Kim, you're too dedicated to us.
Oh.
Thank you, Jean. That's very sweet.
Thank you so much.
From Jennifer, what does it mean if your topic is not in the thesaurus?
Nothing. So depending on what your topic is, it might just not be. What the thesaurus is that dedicated list of terms that the APA has said, okay, this is what we're going to refer to this subject. So you could use your term still as a keyword, but it will also have a subject term. In fact, let's go, I'll tell you what, I will show you exactly what I mean. And we're going to stick with my wintertime go-to here because it's dark here in Chicago right now. It's only 5:30. So let me limit to scholarly articles because this will make more sense. Okay, so if I click on this first article here, so you'll see our term seasonal affective disorder in two places. So here in the abstract, and here it's just a keyword. So it could also be in the full text of the article, which I'm assuming it would be. It could be in the, sometimes you find keywords in the author affiliations, but then you'll also notice here we have subjects. So these are the subjects that were taken from the PsycInfo thesaurus and assigned to this article by a person. So that focuses your search a little bit more. And you could actually use, you notice that all of these are links, so you could click on these to create a different type of search for yourself. So, and you'll see the difference, well actually, oh I limited it to peer review, that's why. So our original keyword search for seasonal affective disorder got over 7,000 results. So using that just as a subject, so much more focused, you'll notice now we only have over 3,500 results. So using both of these in combination is really useful, especially at the beginning of a search, because then you want to make sure that you kind of have an idea of what's going on in general in the literature, and it will help you figure out which direction you want to take.
Okay, thank you, Kim. See, the more you talk, the more questions I get.
Oh, does anybody want to see the Social Science Citation Index?
Now, I do have a question here from Jean. Can we try the term getting unstuck? Are you serious, Jean? Or was that kind of a little joke? Sometimes I'm reading the questions and I don't hear everything that Kim is saying.
We could try it. It might be fun.
Okay. And let's see. I know. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's it for questions for right now. Thank you, Kim.
Okay. Oh, phew. That was fun. All right. Well, let me close some of these windows. And we're going to go in a slightly different direction. So what I want to talk about now is more mining for more citations. So you might already have some citations, and that's why I'm leaving this up, because I'm going to show you. I don't know why that's so big. There we go. First, I'm going to bring up the oldest articles, and apparently, oh, I see why. Oh, that's right. I forgot we were just in Harvard Business Review. Let me do another quick search here, because I'm going to want to use an article here from EBSCO as an example in the Social Science Citation Index. So I'm going, there we go. I didn't realize I had more than one window open. Okay. And let's bring up the oldest ones. So the Social Science Citation Index, some of you may have heard about this before. It is a good resource to really trace what the history of an article and how the article has been used moving forward, which kind of helps you, and I don't know why, there we go, which helps you kind of track where the work in your particular area of study is going. So we're going to limit this, which I thought we already did. Okay, so we're going to take this article here, one of these from the 80s, but first let's go to, I think we're on the right page, yep. No, let's go to all databases, and then as I scroll down, I was looking for this widget, and this is our A to Z database list, which for the moment is the only place we have Web of Science. For those of you who've used our website, any input that you have on how you use it, what things you like, what you don't like, we definitely want to hear, because this is basically a living website and we are constantly making changes. So Web of Science is another platform. That's the name of the platform. So it's like your EBSCO and your ProQuest. And when I click on all databases, we have these four, which are all citation indexes. So there's no full text in this database, and the only one we're really going to talk about here is the Web of Science Core Collection, which is the new name for the Social Science Citation Index. It's part of it, but because that's how I know it, that's how I refer to it. And it makes it more meaningful, because Core Collection, what does that mean? But Citation Index, you know what you're going to get. So I want to bring this up now because many of you might have also used Google Scholar already to do some of that citation mining. So what's the difference? Well, they both have their pros and cons. I use Google Scholar myself all the time, but what I want to point out is depending on what you're looking for, keep in mind that, again, we're back to the human versus machine aspect. So the Web of Science Core Collection, the Social Science Citation Index, it's multidisciplinary, but the focus is primarily more in the sciences. So for those of you who might be doing work in public health or the health sciences as time goes on, this is a good place to search for citations and to get some knowledge about the literature in that area. It's all people-driven, so experts in the field are applying subject terms to these citations and are doing a lot of behind-the-scenes work to make sure that you can find what you need. Google Scholar, on the other hand, it's all machine-driven, and in opposition to what you find in the Web of Science platform, which is all journals, very subject-specific, Google Scholar searches not only journals, but Google Books. It mines data from faculty websites, from institution websites, publishers' websites, So you get really a myriad of material in there that might not be particularly applicable to your work, but I suggest using them both. So here in the Web of Science core collection, they've changed it a lot in the last few years, so it's quite user-friendly. Again, you can see here I've already done some searching previously. You can do keyword searches by your topic, or if you're looking for a particular article, which is what I wanted to show you, you could do that, or look for work by an author if you're trying to identify all of an author's work in one area. Sometimes that's difficult to do. So we'll do two searches here. First, I'll do a topic search, and I just cleared it, so let me bring it back. I was going to say, now my computer's going to freeze. That would not be good. All right, so we got 197 results, which you notice was a lot more than we got when we were searching at EBSCO. So keep in mind, in EBSCO, we were searching all the databases, thousands of resources, which included trade publications, magazines, newspapers. So here, what we're looking at here, everything is from a peer-reviewed journal. And the nice thing about Web of Science is that you do, as you see in other database platforms, you have the ability to limit. So if you're just interested in neurosciences, or just you're looking for a particular book review citation, you can do it this way. And you can kind of get the scope of what's in your results list by looking at the years that are represented here. One unique feature or category that they give you is the funding agency, because keep in mind this is heavy on the health sciences, so a lot of the published research that you're going to find here is funded somehow by somebody. So you might be interested, especially in seeing what kind of grants researchers have received, or if a particular area has been funded by grants. This is one way to figure that out. But I referenced before that you might want to use the Web of Science to kind of trace the history of literature. So we're going to just randomly pick one, and this is truly random. So this is an article from 1990, Psychopharmacology Bulletin, and I am going to search this by the title. And we're going to search for this title in both Web of Science and Google Scholar. So let's go back to searching and put our title in, and we're going to tell the system that we're searching by title. And actually, I don't think, I want to make sure that this comes up, because if we limit it by the years immediately, I'm not going to find it because it published between before. This one wasn't in there. Sometimes that does happen. And it could be because of the journal it's from. But let's go to Google Scholar for a minute and try it here. And so here you go. And interestingly enough, okay, let's take a look at some of these features. So this citation came up in Google Scholar. And for those of you who are familiar, you know that oftentimes a link to full text, either a free PDF out on the web because the author has put it on their website, or faculty have published it and they've put it on their institution website, that might be here. We'll talk in a minute about how to connect to the library databases if you're searching in Google Scholar as well. But what I wanted to look at right now is what we were searching for is the cited by the number of times that this article has been cited. So it says here that it's been cited 122 times. And you'll see here now we have many links to full text. So really what we're doing is moving forward. And you could just keep going. You could look at the titles and you say, well, this is something I'm interested in. This is from 2005. This particular article has been cited 280 times. So if you click on that, so again, now you see that all of the citations have brought you forward. This is most useful. This taking an older article and moving forward and mining for citations. This is one of the biggest uses that I find for the ProQuest dissertations and theses database. Many of you might have already done this. You can't necessarily cite a dissertation in your own dissertation, but what you can do is look at their bibliography, because think about it, they've already spent their weeks, their months doing their literature review and doing all that searching. So take a look at what they've found to be relevant for their research, and you might be able to pick a few citations from there, come here to Google Scholar, bring that research forward, learn who has cited that original citation, and you'd be able to use that for your own research then. But let's go back, actually. The other thing I wanted to point out, which you may have already noticed, is Web of Science is also linked to this. But you'll notice that the number is radically different from what Google Scholar cites or says the number of articles that have cited this main article. So we've kind of talked about already why that happens, because of the difference in the focus of material, of content between Google Scholar and Web of Science. But then that surprises me too, because then I don't know why it didn't come up in the first place. Because it's in there, so I might not have searched for it correctly. So that would cause me as a researcher to come back to Web of Science and do that search for that article title again. I'm like, why couldn't I find that original one? But we have a lot of resources here as well, and so we've got articles that have just been published last month. So that is a brief overview of those two, but what I want to point out, I'm going to go back to Google Scholar real quick, and then I'm going to check in to see if you guys have questions. What I want to make sure everybody knows about Google Scholar, and I mentioned this briefly, is that you can connect it to the library resources. So we're on the Google Scholar homepage here, and I'm going to click on Settings, and you'll notice I am signed in with my personal Gmail account. But if you were signed in with your school email account or your personal Gmail account, that would work as well. I clicked on Settings. You can do several things here. You can change the number of results per page. You can only go up to 20, but in any opportunity that you have to increase the number of results on your the pages that are returned back to you in a search, you should go ahead and do that, because research has shown that most of us don't really go past the first 1 or 2 pages of search results that are returned to us. That goes for what you do in something like Google, as well as in searching research databases within the EBSCO platform. And I like to have things open in a new window, which this is totally up to your own personal preferences. And also, something that we'll touch on briefly here is the fact that you can also use Google Scholar to import citations into RefWorks. You notice that they are limited to just a few, and you may use another service such as Zotero or Mendeley, which are free services available on the web. So you'd have to follow the instructions for those tools to get the citations into that citation management tool. But more importantly, what I want to show you you'll see that I'm already linked to the TCS Ed system. So this is what you want to see. You want to see TCS Ed system pop up. And if it wasn't checked, whoops. So let's do that again, and I'll show you how to search for it. So if you just type in TCS, there we go. And if you have access at any other library, you want to perhaps Northwestern, which is here in the Chicago area, you could search to see what that is, and then when you are prompted, so you check the box, save it, and then once we do our search again, let's try it again and see what happens. I'm sure you guys can already guess what you're going to see. So we're seeing some PDFs out on the web, and strangely enough, not seeing anything from any of our databases, because I fully expected to see TCS PP, and even nothing from Northwestern. So, but you do see things like ScienceDirect, which this would prompt you for a login. And this is where it gets complicated. So I clicked on ScienceDirect. I'm not sure we subscribe to that journal, but your first instinct would be, let me click on this PDF, and oh, and here it is. So it's working, actually I have to say it's working a little bit differently than it has in the past, so things might have changed in the month since I last gave this talk or had this opportunity to talk with you guys, because what it should say, you more than likely will see, like, you know, in TCS POC databases, it would take you back into the database. It all depends, I guess, where it is, because back to the questions about what's the difference between like the search engine and EBSCO. So in EBSCO, it's really the content, the vetted content that's in there. Not all of our journals are housed in one of these major platforms, such as EBSCO and ProQuest. There are many different publishers out there that don't connect themselves with EBSCO, so we get those journals in a different way. This happens to be one of them. Elsevier through ScienceDirect, we don't have a direct link to that. We have links to the journals, which is what you are being given here. And this kind of thing would actually come up in the library catalog. So that's important to note too. And I didn't talk about the library catalog. Let's go back to the home page. And the library catalog is this box right here. And it's a good place to really start your general searching and to get a feel for what the library might have. And it does link to almost all of our databases. But I didn't really cover it here because in a more in-depth search you would have already done this. And so I took you directly to the databases just so you could dig right in right away. So does anybody have questions about that? There's other tricks you can use in Google Scholar. You might, but we'll talk, I think, a little bit about that in a minute, because I don't want to run out of time before everybody gets to ask their questions.
Thanks, Kim. I do have a couple questions actually about databases. From Nini. Hi, Kim. I wanted to find out if there was a database where we can access theses and dissertation papers. I would benefit very much from reading dissertation papers of my peers and to get a more solid idea of what a perfect dissertation paper is supposed to look like.
Absolutely. So if we go to find articles and journals, we're going to go to ProQuest. It's in ProQuest. Actually, we're going to go right here. There's a little box that gives you the direct link to just the dissertations and theses. And I say that just because there are, well, actually it didn't do what it was supposed to, so it's good we're doing this. We do have 5 databases here in ProQuest, but we're going to choose just ProQuest and dissertations and theses. Now it says global, and when it says this is truly a global database. So many institutions who work with ProQuest to put together their dissertations do those students, those authors make their dissertations available here through the database. So just to give you an example, I'm going to stick with my keywords and we'll throw an extra trick in there. So using those quotation marks will keep your word together as a phrase and not split it up. So here you see that we've retrieved over 1,400 results, and these are all dissertations. So you can, most of them will be available in PDF format. If we look at the abstract, you'll be able to see the full abstract, subject terms that have been assigned to this, along with APA classifications, author supplied keywords for their particular dissertation. So yes, this is definitely available. One thing I want to point out, you may be looking, let's go to advanced search. You may be looking for a particular author, a particular advisor, or a particular institution. And you can do that here in advanced search. You can look up your professor's name, find their dissertation, or as well dissertations that they have shared. Or you could also look up, let's say, you went to Loyola University of Chicago and you wanted to take a look at those dissertations. You could do that through here, through the advanced search. So here everything's through Loyola now, or from Loyola. Did that answer your question?
Actually, it did. Nini writes, wow, amazing. Thank you very much. Okay. I have a couple of comments here from one of our faculty, Richard, and he's making some very good points. Just a heads up, everybody, that Harvard Business Review is a wonderful practitioner executive publication, and it's an APA magazine reference format, but it should not be confused with a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Also, about dissertations, while reading dissertations can be helpful to gain a sense of the nature, scope, depth, and detail about the topic, it should not be used as a scholarly source for content because they are not part of the scholarly literature or part of the knowledge base, as they have not been peer-reviewed, and quality can vary dramatically. So that's just an awareness about using dissertations. Let's see. Dissertations as sources in general shouldn't be cited in student dissertations.
Great.
No, not the topic, but what it looks like. They're good to look through for the structure. So just a heads up from Richard. Richard, thank you very much for that additional information. Let's see. And that's all the questions I have right now, Kim. Thank you. Yeah, we are kind of running out of time, so if anybody does have additional questions, please post them now. Back over to you, Kim.
Okay. Well, actually, Richard, you give me a great segue into great literature, which is something that I've been reading a lot about lately, and it's really interesting. And this is where dissertations fall. But first, let's bring up, I wanted to let everybody know, you notice I'm not using slides. There is a guide, a research guide that I've created for this, and I'm going to use this search box to find it. And so here under literature review, a lot of the different things that I'm talking about today, you can find some information here. So here on what is a lit review, we talk about that a little bit, but by the time you get to really in-depth searching, you're fully aware of what that is. But you may want to use some of these other guides that give some more basic tips on how to use the catalog, starting your research, and a few extra things to know about doing research for your dissertation. So also here we talk about further researching your topic. We talked about Web of Science and Google Scholar. And we won't get to this today, but I want to make you aware that we do have links to our citation managers in a few different places. So here under organizing your work, and then we also have it in other research guides. So we subscribe to RefWorks, but we also give you the links to, I previously mentioned, Zotero and Mendeley. So really which citation manager you use is up to you and your preference and which tool you like better over another. So we do have a sheet here that compares the different tools that may help you make a decision once you get to that point. But I'm going to focus for a couple minutes here on gray literature. And you may be wondering what that is if you haven't heard that term before. So gray literature really is a growing area of not research, but of interest in the research. So it's called gray because it's oftentimes difficult to find, because it's not often indexed in something like the APA PsycInfo, or it may not be as easy to find in Google Scholar because it's actually not published in a scholarly journal, or it's not a book. It could be a preprint, a conference publication, and a thesis or a dissertation. It could be a technical report. It could be an institutional project report. And why do you want to know about gray literature? So depending on the focus of your dissertation or the focus of your work, you may not be able to cite gray literature, but because oftentimes, and this is especially true in the health sciences, where gray literature is a really big deal, because it takes a while. I was just reading recently that there is basically an 11-month gap from the acceptance of an article to the publishing of that article in a journal. So depending on what area you're researching, a lot could change in that time. So you want to be aware of where you could look for certain things that haven't been published yet, because the research is always being updated. Another thing that's found with published literature is a lot of it reflects the positive results of studies. There may be some bias there. So knowing about gray literature, that you might be able to find some additional information or raw information about a given study, may give you a less of a bias and allow you to form your own thoughts and opinions on a particular subject. It really depends on what you're researching, as to what might be available for you. We do actually, speaking of databases, I went through all that and said, well, they're not indexed. These kind of materials aren't indexed in databases, but there is one thing that we have in the library that APA puts out. So if we go back to EBSCO, and because it's by APA, it's very psychology-centric, so it's a really good resource to use on all of your searches. It will help you get a fuller scope of the literature, the opinions in the area that you're researching. And that is PsycExtra. And so here, so you can choose to just do PsycExtra. So you're looking in here at conference publications, government reports, technical reports, all related to psychology. And it's important to note, and they say here, that these records about all of this content is not in any other APA database. So if you want to make sure as you're starting your search that maybe you can get a feeling for what kind of newsletters are out there, since those are published, monthly, biannually, to help you keep up to date on an organization or a topic of interest, that PsycExtra is a good database to include. However, let's go back to our guide. There are a couple things out there on the web that would help you in particular. So really, out on the web, there's the resources that you have to search gray literature are kind of broken up into 3 different areas. And there's just a spattering of resources here for you. And you notice that a lot of them really are focused on health and evidence-based clinical studies. So it really is, there is a lot more of this type of material available in the health sciences. But you might want to look at resources such as GraySource, which is available through GrayNet International. Now let me open that in a new tab. And this really is a direct, oh, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that we got this requesting, because I didn't
Sure.
share it with you last time, from Jennifer. Would you please share how we can access Web of Science through the school?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. Well, and just so everybody knows, all this information about gray literature is linked on the library website. So here, if you do that search for literature search, you'll see the tab for gray literature, because I know we've only got a few minutes left. All right, let me close some of these other tabs just so it doesn't get too overwhelming. If we go to the library website, and I go to all databases under Find Books, Media, and Articles. We're working on making this easier to get to when I am on the wrong page. No, here we go. You want to look for this, it's called Other widget right now, but the A to Z database list. And so Web of Science is the very last thing in the list. So there you go. And you should see, I was looking, most of our subscription database, here we go. You want to see the Chicago School of Professional Psychology down here. That shows you, that tells you that you're in the school subscription. Because sometimes you might get to it from another institution, most likely not, but sometimes that does happen without logging in. But you want to make sure that you see the Chicago School at the bottom. Anything else right now?
Thank you, Kim. That was very helpful. And Jennifer wrote, thank you so much.
Oh, sure.
Do you have just a couple of closing remarks? I would like to read some of the comments from some of the students when you're done.
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to make one last comment. So I talked briefly about directories. There's also institutional repositories when it comes to gray literature, and this one is a little bit easier for you to search. The Directory of Open Access Journals, and these are freely published journals, that's actually part of the library catalog. So you can search some gray literature through the library catalog as well. And then there's also some web searching tools. Open Gray is the name of one. But again, you can find that on the Gray Literature tab of the Literature Review Research Guide. So if you have any other questions about that, I mean, we can make an appointment. We can dig a little bit into your research. But I did want to give time for any last questions, comments, that kind of thing. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Kim. Again, some people had to leave a few minutes early, but a lot of the comments related to they're looking forward to seeing the recording because your webinars are so helpful to the students. Tiffany wrote, this has been extremely useful. Thank you for the presentation. Also, just so people on the webinar tonight will know, we're going to force Kim to give you one of these every other month. In case we didn't know that, Kim.
Oh, great, thanks. Well, this is why I have other librarians, because Jillian, many of you may know Jillian and her great webinars, and she is coming back from maternity leave. So you'll get to see her next year, hopefully.
Okay, well, we'll get both of you then.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, everybody. If you have questions or more comments, please feel free to contact Kim Wobick through her email. I did put that in the chat box. Also in the chat box, I put the link where the YouTube or the webinar recording of this will be in the NCAID YouTube channel. Just give Ellen some time to get that posted in there. And Lyd, I'm going to stay online to help you through your question. If there are any other questions, please be sure to contact Kim, Professor Grant, or myself. And again, thank you, Kim. Ellen, thank you so much for hosting this webinar, and everybody have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks for having me.